Stages of life. Now, this is a module in which we'll talk about the different stages of life, how life begins. Now, it is with the formation of zygote after the ovum and the sperm meet. Zygote is a very small microscopic structure which cannot be seen with the naked eye. Now, this starts developing slowly and slowly, gets into an embryonic stage, and during embryonic stage, some development is there and a shape is assumed. Now, this forms the prenatal period of an individual's life. The prenatal period is divided into 3 trimesters, each trimester showing variation as far as development is concerned. In the first trimester, up to 3 months period, certain aspects develop. There's a tremendous growth which takes place during this period. Close to the end of the first trimester, the hands and the feet assume their shape. The fingers in the form of buds starts appearing, as well as the toes are there on the feet. The second trimester, starting from 3rd to 6th month, is a period of prolonged and fast growth, during which most of the organs are developed, but the weight does not increases as the other dimensions do. The 3rd trimester, which begins from 6th month onward till the 9th month, most of the organs which had appeared in the 2nd trimester, they grow at a much faster rate, and the shape of the baby is almost assumed during this period. Now, this period, the eyebrows are formulated, the nose takes its form, the nostrils are visible, the nose, eyes, and the shape of the face assumes its shape. The hair on head starts appearing, and the size enlarges tremendously, and during this period, the maximum growth takes place. The amount of growth which takes place in the 3 trimesters of the prenatal stage is enormous, and that is the period of maximum growth in an individual's lifespan. The remaining period from birth till the adult age or till the old age is not as great as the prenatal period is. Close to the end of the 3rd trimester, the baby has assumed a shape almost as good as a newborn child. And when the term is completed, the child is born and enters a different phase of life. On birth, the infant enters a different stage that is called as postnatal period. The postnatal period is divided into numerous stages. The first stage is that of an infant. The infancy is a period in which the child starts increasing in all dimensions. At the time of birth, the average weight of a newborn child is something like 2.5 to 3 kilograms on average. The length of the body of a child is something like 48 to 51 centimeters. The body can be seen in three basic components, that is, head and face portion, the trunk portion, and the leg portion. The head is the largest component. The head circumference is largest as compared to the chest circumference and abdomen circumference. And it occupies nearly 30% of the total length of the body. Similarly, the legs also occupy nearly 30% of the total length, with the trunk having something like 40% of the total height length of the person. In this proportion, when a child is born, he slowly starts increasing. The increase is much faster in the trunk and the leg component as compared to the head and face. Assuming a situation if head and face also increases at the same rate, the shape of an adult would become something a laughing stock, because he would have the head and face region something like as big as 2 feet or more than 2 feet in size. And the leg component would also be equivalent to that, and the trunk would be nearly 40% of an adult individual. Say, for example, if the person is having 6 feet as the height, so he would give a very different kind of proportions to his body. Therefore, the growth takes place in such a way that the different components grow at a different rate and at different time, thereby providing a shape to the body of an individual which is acceptable and that we have with all the individuals, and it does not look awkward. The postnatal period, starting with the infancy, shows a growth rate which is nominal. The child increases in first year up to something like 6 centimeters in length. The weight starts fluctuating immediately after birth, and then nearly after 2 weeks the child starts gaining the body weight. So there is not much of a variation in the child's body weight by the time he is 1 year of age. By the time a child enters early childhood stage, which starts from 2 years onward, the head circumference of a child becomes much less as compared to the abdomen circumference, whereas the chest circumference is the largest. And from that period onward till the adult age, the chest circumference continues to remain larger as compared to the abdomen circumference, and the head circumference is least, thereby giving an individual a shape which is like that of a normal person. The early childhood period, which is the second stage of life, is a time when the motor development takes place. The child is able to walk. The crawling period is already over during infancy stage, and the child becomes more innovative. He's capable of holding things, he's capable of lifting things and walking, he's capable of breaking things, he's capable of running or teasing, because the brain growth is also there. Similarly, immediately after this period, the middle childhood begins, and in the middle childhood it's also correlated to the school age of a child. There was a common saying and has been referred in certain books. When a child is able to put his hand across his head and touch the ear on the other side, that is, putting the right hand over the head and touching the left ear, he is said to be capable of being sent to school. That is the stage when the arm of an individual gets that much elongated. The child is able to carry the school bag and other things. He is capable of carrying weight at his back, in his hands, and so on. Now, in this stage, the development takes place much faster and the child increases its function in various capabilities. He is able to speak perfectly well, he is able to communicate, he is able to write, he is able to perform various activities, he can listen to the commands given by the parents, he is able to listen to the commands given by teacher in a school, and that is the basic period of his socialization. Now, till this stage, which is up to around 5 years of age, the boys and girls show almost similar sort of growth, and boys are relatively ahead of girls during this period. From 6 years onward, when the late childhood begins, the females starts superseding the males in their height and other body dimensions. Puberty is a period when the sexual maturity signs starts appearing. The females show it by the onset of menstruation, the first menstrual cycle, whereas it occurs among females nearly about 1 to 1.5 years earlier than the males. The average period of a female entering the phase of puberty is around 9 to 11 years, whereas for males it is 10 to 12 years. Now, this delay exhibits the variation, and the females are ahead of males in their bodily development till about 11 years, whereafter the boys supersede them. And they supersede them throughout the end of their life in their different body dimensions. The period of adolescence begins after entering to puberty. It's generally 10 to 17 years is for the females, and from 11 to 19 years for the males. That is the period of adolescence, and it is a stage in which once again a child undergoes a tremendous growth and shows an adolescent growth spurt. This is a period in which an individual grows in all the body dimensions to the maximum extent, and the increase may be something like 10 to 15 centimeters in height and other related linear dimensions of the body. The males have shown the maximum intensity of the spurt up to 20 centimeters during 1 year of their life. Now, that particular phase when they show the maximum growth is known as period of adolescent spurt. According to Tanner 1962, every child must undergo a period of adolescent spurt and show tremendous growth somewhere between 11 to 17 years of age. And it's a universal phenomenon where every child shows this increase, provided the factors affecting growth are not operating in an adverse manner. There are numerous factors which control the development, of which the genetic and nutritional factors are relatively more important as compared to the remaining characters. Now, in case a child is suffering from nutritional deprivement, his growth would be hampered and he may not show the intensity of the adolescent spurt to that level as a normal child who is not suffering from any kind of nutritional deprivation. Similarly, if genetic component are affected, some mutation takes place in the genes, the child's growth would be hampered and the intensity of spurt would reduce drastically as compared to a normal child. So this period shows that a child has attained maximum height and other body dimensions, whereafter it is stated that the increase in height and other body dimensions becomes minimized. An individual's height is stabilized almost by the close of adolescent phase of life. This phase shows an increase. The social aspects associated with this stage of life are tremendous. The hormonal changes takes place during adolescent period. The genetical changes takes place during this period. The social transformation takes place during this period. A male and female differences are much more apparent because the secondary sex characters develop to the maximum level during adolescent period of life. The females show variation, the males show variation. They start having the attraction towards the opposite sex because of the genetical changes which takes place in an individual. The males and females attain their maximum size in terms of their height, whereafter the apparent increase does not occur, is latest by 20 years of age when an individual enters the adult stage. They are called as young adults from 20 to 29 years of age, and during this period, the features which are stabilized during adolescent period show their maximum appearance. The variations which are there become much more conspicuous during this period, and this is the period when the height does not show any apparent increase. The weight may continue to increase as far as the other body dimensions pertaining to the length of the legs or length of the trunk or changes in the facial dimensions, length and breadth of the head of an individual, or increase in the size of arms or hands and feet do not take place. The only changes which occur are the increase in certain body circumferences. With regard to the chest circumference may increase, the abdomen circumference may decrease, the hip circumference may show an increase because of the accumulation of more fat in different parts of the body. So with these changes, an individual undergoes another phase of life, that is the married phase, because 20 to 30 is a period in which most people get married. The females get married slightly earlier as compared to the males. As a common saying, according to the Hindu tradition, the female should be nearly 7 years younger to the male counterpart. As far as the stage of life is concerned, this is the stage of the major responsibility of an individual because he picks up the job, stabilizes, he gets married, enters into another phase of life, that is the family life. There he has a responsibility not only of his parents, but the responsibility of his wife as well as his own family, his children. "30 years onward till 50 years is the middle age period. Now this is more or less a stabilized period where not much of change in the body takes place. An individual after about 40 years of age starts showing certain decline. The musculature of the body becomes little loose. The elasticity reduces. The intervertebral disc in the vertebral column gets hardened, thereby reducing the height of an individual by about half a centimeter or 5 millimeters. Some people undergo the problems like lumbar spondylitis or cervical spondylitis during this period. That is because of either an extra growth of the cervical vertebra in the neck region or the fusion of the lumbar vertebra in the abdomen region, which causes invariably a slip disc problem with the individuals. So the elasticity is reduced due to that, and thereby the body cannot be stretched as it could be during the younger years. So this is one change. The second change occurs among the females, and that is one of the most important change, that is onset of menopause. Now menopause is technically the end of the reproductive period for a female, whereafter she cannot reproduce. It causes social impact, psychological impact on the female, because she gets slightly afraid that she can no more attract the male counterpart. Certain bodily changes takes place. Some problems with the knee joints, some problems with the hormonal changes. So the skin gets patches, some wart formation on the skin, and the stress, psychological stress, causes much harm to the female. Whereas these changes are not seen among the male. Now people say males also undergo a male menopause, but that is at a much later stage as compared to that of the female menopause, which is invariably between 44 to 50 years of age. The average age for menopause has been referred to as 45 years, but slight variation has been observed in different regions because of the climatic changes. From 60 onward, the old age period begins. Now this is again, the stage is divided into different parts: early old age, middle old age, and the late old age, or real old age, when the person is beyond 80 years of age. Now, not much changes takes place during this period because the person in the old age becomes dependent upon the family members. The cause for dependency is that he is retired from his active life. He is no more in service. So psychological fear whether I'll be accepted in the family at this age or I'll be discarded by the family, how the family is going to accept him. So these social causes create a great impact on the lifestyle of the individual, whereas the females do not have that kind of a problem. So this is how the person passes through different stages of life in the postnatal period, and ultimately they become so old that they are almost either immovable, or they are left to the hospital or the old age homes which have been set up by the government at different places or by certain NGOs where they can go and people are there to take care of them, but it's at a specific expense. They have to pay heavy charges for being in an old age home to be looked after by somebody, because their own children are not capable of either looking after them, or they are not interested to look after them, or they feel them as a burden in the family and don't want to stay with them. So when the person becomes too old, he is almost immobile, not capable of moving on its own, and then one day the life comes to an end and the person is no more. So after passing through these different stages of life, which started with a zygote, it ends after a span of something like 70 or 80 years of age, or 85 or 90 years of age, depending upon the longevity of an individual. He comes to an end and then is cremated finally, and the life is no more with him. To sum up, it could be stated that the life stages, which begins from a zygote passing through the different trimesters of prenatal period of growth, enters into a postnatal period at birth, and from that period onward, passing through infancy, early childhood, middle childhood, late childhood, the adolescent phase, entering into adulthood, the early adulthood, middle adulthood, and the late adulthood, and finally entering the old age. The span may be extended from birth, from the zygote formation onward, and continuing till about 80 or 90 years, depending upon the longevity of the individual concerned. Thank you.